ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुकारस्वन्धकारो वै ऋकारस्तन्निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः विषेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ॐ प्रज्ञानां शुप्रतानैः स्थिरचरनिकरव्यापिभिर्व्याप्य लोकान् भुक्त्वा भोगान् स्तविष्टान् पुनरपि दिषणोद्भासितान् कामजन्यान् पीत्वा सर्वान् विशेषान् स्वपिति मधुरभुङ्मायया भोजयन्नः मायासङ्ख्यातुरीयं परममृतमजं ब्रह्म यत्तन्नतोऽस्मि। तस्मान्न जायते चित्तं चित्तं दृश्यं न जायते तस्य पश्यन्ति ये जातिं के वै पश्यन्ति ते पदम्। The Dvaitavadins talk about presence of nanatvam. Prajnapti is spoken about the multifoldness of the creation, and also the Sanklesha was spoken about. Because there is pain that is experienced in the world, therefore Prajnapti means there should be a nimitta for it. Prajnaptehe sanimittattvam ishyate yukti darshanat. Okay, so Prajnapti means there should be a cause for it. Prajnapti is the nanatva, was already spoken about. Okay, and not only that, there is also this whole Sanklesha, the dukkha. All these mean that there are external objects. So the sahetutvam has to be there, was the contention of Dvaitins. Okay, this was dismissed by bringing in Vijnanavadi. These Vijnanavadis, the subjective realists or whatever they are called, they look upon everything as chitta spandanam only. So there is this arthabhasam. Arthabhasam is like the mind is projecting the world. Okay, so that whatever is there, like trees and mountains and whatever is the world of experience, they are not separate from the mind, and the mind is what is projecting all of them. That is the conclusion of Vijnanavadins. Therefore, the nimittam is not necessary, okay, because there is nothing which is really being touched by the mind. It is only the mind which, through this so-called indriyas and indriya sannikarsha, both are only perceptions within the collective mind. That is how the Vijnanavadis look at it. Suppose you see a tree. The tree is nothing but tree consciousness in the form of tree form consciousness, tree touch consciousness, tree sight consciousness, tree taste consciousness, and all that. So each of those consciousnesses are nothing but part of your own mind, and that mind is what is seeing a tree, whereas there is actually no tangible thing called tree. To say something is tangible, also, the tangibility is established only by your indriya. So there is nothing apart from that indriyas showing you some kind of a tangibility, but actually there is nothing that is being touched. So he also dismissed it viparyasa. If there is no tree, maybe there is something else which is showing up as tree. So can then we need to find out what is that object which is showing up as tree was the question, and that was also dismissed by saying that there is nothing being touched. Okay. So only if something is being touched, you need to give an explanation as to what is that. So that all these answers to the Dvaitins were given by Vijnanavadins. Now the subjective idealist is what are Vijnanavadins. For them, everything is Vijnanam only. It's a Buddhist way of looking at the experience. Okay. Now, for that, now we are accepting the Gaudapada is actually accepting the Vijnanavadin's contention that dismisses Dvaitin, because we are in agreement that that is how the world is. Okay. So that is the context. So let's see. Prajnaptehe sanimittattvam इत्यादि एतदन्तं विज्ञानवादिनः बौद्धस्य वचनं बाह्यार्थवादी वादिपक्ष प्रतिषेधपरम् आचार्येण अनुमोदितम्. Prajnaptehe sanimitthatvam, that is from 25 to 27, those three verses. Vijnanavadinaha Bauddhasya Vachanam. So the contention of the Vijnanavadis, subjective idealists, that actually dismisses Bhahyarthavadi Paksha. Who are Bhahyarthavadi? Everybody other than Bauddha and Advaitin is a Bhahyarthavadi. In Acharya's time, he primarily meant Sankhya Naiyayika Vaiseshikas, but all others, Charvaka and all those also can be included. If you look at it, if you are not an Advaiti or a Shunyavadi, Vijnanavadi, whatever, then you are a Bhahyarthavadi only. So the Bhahyartha only varies. Somebody says there are 25 Padarthas, somebody who says Saptapadartha, someone who says something else. Somebody say Visishtam, somebody say Madhvadaitam, someone say ISKCON, Krishna is the God, Jesus is the God, something. Everybody is a Bhahyartha for this person. For me, as a Jiva, even Ishvara is a Bhahyartha only. Jagat is anyway Bhahyartha. Whether that Ishvara is Krishna or Rama or Jesus or Allah or whatever it is, so long as it is a Dvaita God, if it is Advaitin's Tatparya Brahma Swarupa, which is depicted in the form of Krishna or Ishvara, Parameshwara, or Mahavishnu, that is a different thing. There it becomes an altar. To altar is different from taking literally. Okay. So altar is you invoke Param Brahma in a particular, pratiti, pratika, means there is, say, a symbol in which you are invoking. That symbol has to kind of provide provision for you to contemplate on Param Brahman. So Sarva Vyapitvam should have a notation there. It should have a representation. Sarva Shaktimatvam should have a representation. Sarvajñatvam should have a representation, right? And then Ishwaratvam, whatever Bhagavan, the Bhaga, all the qualities, Samagratvam of all qualities should be there in some representation, whether it is Ganesha or Shiva or Mahavishnu or Subramanya or Sri Krishna, all these forms provision for all the qualities of Ishvara, which is Sagunam Brahma, and also provisions for the Nirguna Swarupa. So we can, if you look at the same form from Vedantis perspective, you can recognize all of it there. Dakshinamurti, Nataraja, every Swarupa is representing only Sagunam and Nirgunam Brahma. Actually, Sagunam only, but it can lead you to Nirgunam because that Sagunatvam like leads you there. If you take Linga, then it is directly a Nirguna, it's an altar for Nirguna. So that is all, then it is not Bahyartha. It is a Lingam, even though that is also Bahyartha, but it is actually a Lingam to show you the Swarupa. Right? But here, if you consider all this Ishwaravadi also, whether Pashupata, Shaiva, or Vaishnava, Madhva, whatever, right? Who considers Guna Vatvam and is some kind of a god who is physically there somewhere, then it's a Bahyartha only for. So there, therefore, what I'm saying is all those theologists also should be considered as Bahyarthavadi. Okay. They are not Vedantavadi. So the only the Vedantins and the Buddha are different from them. Okay, all others are Bhagyarthavadi. That Paksha is Pratishiddham. And that Bhagyartha more or less is the same logic, right? They are the Prajnapti and some Slesham. What is that word I forgot? Some Kleshatvam, I think, right? Hmm. I don't know where it was. Anyway, so that is Sanklesha. Yeah, Sankleshasya Upalabdescha. So the Sanklesha also, that is the reasoning given by everybody. Every Bhahyarthavadi says, oh, world is there. Why? Because it is evident. I am seeing Nanatvam. Okay. So it is there in front of me. So that is the Hetu they give, right? So therefore, Sahetukam only it has to be. Nimittatvam has to exist, is what all of them will say. So that Paksha Pratisheda Param Vijnana Vadinaha Bauddhasya Vachanam Acharyena Anumoditam. It is being accepted. Okay. Therefore, the that is fine. Okay. Till there we are fine. Okay. Then he goes one step further. What Tadeva Hetum Krutva Tatpaksha Pratishedaya Tadidam Uchyate. Using the same Hetu. Okay, what is the Hetu? The Abhasatvam, whatever he was using last time, that Arthavasam. Chittam na samsprishati, Artham na Arthavasam. Abhutohi yatascha Artaha na Arthavasaha tataha pratak. And here also, Nimittasya Animittatvam Vishyate Bhuta Darshanat, and so all this logic was given. Whatever is evident to you as being born or changing and all that, there is no real Bhuta Vastu there. was the logic. So he says, same hetu, tadeva hetum krutva tat paksha pratished. Which paksha now? The same Vijnanavadi's paksha also can be dismissed by the same reasoning. Therefore, idam uchyate tasmad ityadi. Okay, that tasmad is for whatever reasoning you gave to dismiss the objects of chittam. For you, chittam is also born. Chittam also, for a kshanika vijnani, you can see that it is being born. Now, why can't you apply the same reasoning, hetu, to dismiss that also? See, that is the idea. यस्माद् असति एव घटादौ घटादि आभासता चित्तस्य विज्ञानवादिना अभ्युपगता तत् अनुमोदितम् अस्माभिः अपि भूतदर्शनात्. He says asati eva ghatadau, the non-existent ghata, pata, mata, vrikshaha, all objects in the world are not there. Asati eva ghatapatadau, not the non-existent gata pata only, gata di abhasata chittasya. The chitta takes the form of gata and shows you that. There is no real gata because you can't establish. Only the chitta, indriya, parinama tvam can be established. I am right now seeing a form which looks like pot. I am able to touch something which shapes like pot. I am able to taste something which tastes like pot. Like that you can say, and finally you say, because of all these indriyas giving these signals, I am saying there is a pot. Therefore, the gatadi abhasata chittasya. So the gata etc. is only chitta's change. Even though a perceptible part is experienced, the Vijnanavadi is saying it is the chitta which is in the form of part. There is, you can, without that there is no other part is establishable. Is what is Vijnanavadina Abhyupagata. That we also accept. Tad anumoditam asmabhihi api. We also accept. Why? Bhuta darshana. That is the way reality is. We accept that. There is nothing wrong in what they are saying. To the extent that all the so-called external objects are nothing but the externality perception, object perception, all these things, everything is buddhi only. Without that buddhi, where is the object? So everything, every object is only buddhi. Okay, that is a very valid argument. We accept, but tasmat tasyapi chittasya. That chitta also is what jayamana avabhasata. Tasmat asati eva. Janmani yukta bhavitum iti ataha na jayate chittam. Same logic you can apply here also. There is a jayamanatvam, avabhasatvam, everything is there about chitta. Just like you are experiencing pot and all that, chittam also is available to you from witness perception. Okay. So objects are available through mental perception or vritti atmakam, but chitta also is available through witness perception. That also is non-separate from your witness, which is Swarupa. So it can be established that for the same logic, you are using the logic what? External objects cannot be separated out from your chittavritti. I am saying chittavritti itself cannot be separated from the chit alone. Prajnapti matram. Isn't it? What is the difference between your hetu and my hetu? Same. Therefore, na jayate chittam. No chittam is actually born. Just like you are saying no pot is actually born. We are extending to say there is no chittam. Yata chitta drishyam na jayate अतः तस्य चित्तस्य ये जातिं पश्यन्ति विज्ञानवादिनः Kshanikatva, Dukhitva, Shunyatva, Anatmatva च तेनैव चित्तेन चित्तस्वरूपं द्रष्टुम् अशक्यं पश्यन्तः केवै पश्यन्ति ते पदं पक्ष्यादीनाम्. So these fellows, Shanika Vijnanis, what are they saying? Whatever is seen by Chitta, Chitta Drishyam, they say it is not born. We accept, right? Similarly, you should say Chitta is also not born, but then they say Chitta is born. That is what they say. Tasya Chittasya Jatim Pashyanti. Not only they say Chitta is born, but they say it is Kshanika. Chitta is available only for a Kshana. And then there is a break. Again, one more Kshana. So it just comes and goes. And because they have to establish Shunyam, you understand? If there is continuity, then that is Satyam. There is no Shunyam. No. Therefore, the Shunyatvam to establish, they say it is Kshanikam. And it has Dukkhitvam. It has that those qualities. Therefore, you negate it, then dukkha is gone. So your dukkha, see, every religion and every philosophy is working on what? Only the primary thing they work on is the dukkha nivritti. Whether it is Sankhya, Naiseshika, Vaiseshika, Nayayika, even Advaiti, dukkha nivritti only, no? So for these fellows, the Shanika Vijnanavadi, Dukkha nivritti is understanding that everything is buddhi only and buddhi is kshanikam. So there is only shunyam, so there is no dukkha. So you have to understand that you are shunya, there is no dukkha for you. But if you are shunya, for whom is dukkha not there, I don't know. Okay. So dukkhitva, shunyatva, anatmatva, all this thing is there for this chitta. All these qualities. I don't know how they have perceived it. That's what he's asking. How did you know that? Tenaiva chittena chitta swarupam drashtum. So now this chitta swarupa, how do you this chitta you are saying is shanika. It doesn't even have a continuity. If it is shanika, then how does what you saw some time back available to you now as memory? If there is only discrete kshanas, what connects the two kshana? That itself is not established. Okay, and then it is shunya also. That shunya chitta, how does it see the swarupa of the chitta and then say it is born? They are very firm that chitta is there. Only other things are not there. But then it is there in the form of shanika, in the form of dukkitva, all this is there. That means using this shunya chitta, they are supposed to see this chitta swarupa. This is like he says, Kevai Pashyanti Te Padam Pakshiyadinam, in the space, in the Akasha, in the sky, not space. In the sky, when birds are flying, you want to see the footprints of the birds. That is what they are trying to do with this Sunya Chitta, trying to understand the Chitta. So, how will you do? There is no footprint. See, the footprint again, it's a very interesting term because for footprint means the past needs to be known, correct? Footprint means what? Something happened in the past and you want to see that impression now. That is what is called footprint. So in the case of Shkanika Buddhi, how will you see that footprint? Because it's a shunya, there is no place to keep the footprint. Like in the case of space, there is nowhere to keep the footprint of birds which are flying. So that's why he uses this very beautiful simile example. Okay. That it is like trying to search for the footprints in the sky. You are trying to use the shunya buddhi to understand this buddhi because you need a thread of things to understand something. Ataha iterebhyaha api dvaitibhyaha atyanta sahasika ityartha. So at least Dvaitins, they are not doing big sahasa, no? Sahasa means they are not brave. They are not doing any earth-shattering philosophy. All they are looking at the world. See, what is Nayayika doing? He just gives a classification, right? Sapta Padartha, then Dravya Guna Kriya Vastu and all that. Then what is a Dravya? What is Guna? You can look at and say, okay, solid is one Dravya, liquid is one Dravya, solid is one Dravya. All that you can say, right? Anybody can look at, it's not that simplified, but technically that's what they are doing, right? And then they talk about, they add a few things like Samvaya Sambandha, all those things they are adding, and then they have some fancy definitions. So how do you define? It's like basically Lakshana Vakyas, right? Shashnadimatve, Sati, Shringivatvam, something like that. Gotva Lakshanam, like that they will give a Lakshana thing. So all these definitions they give. What? How do you define any one of them? They'll give tight definition of what it is. That's all they are doing. Basically, just looking at the external thing, and they are making some certain a certain structure to what they are observing. Right? There is no sahasa. You can't say they are wrong. See, within the scope of what they are saying, we accept no. So Shasnadi Matvam Gotha Lakshana, what problem we have? Of course it is correct only, right? So like that, these they are not sahasika. Only sahasa they are doing is that there is no nirvikalpam brahma. This only is real and all that. So we don't accept. Okay. Whereas these fellows, atyanta sahasikaha, who vijnanavadins, why? For them they are using this shunya buddhi to understand buddhi itself. Therefore, he says these fellows are even more sakasika. So he keeps Dvaitins above the Buddhas. Even though, actually speaking, in this case, Shanika Vijnanavadi is used to dismiss Dvaitin. But in the last step, he says Dvaiti is better because eventually these fellows' idea of what is Chitta doesn't hold water, because you are using this one logic to dismiss worldly things, but not applying the same logic for the Chitta. So there also, that's why he looks at them as very weak argumenters. Okay, yepi shunyavadinaha pashyante पश्यन्तः एव सर्वशून्यतां स्वदर्शनस्यापि शून्यतां प्रतिजानते ते ततोपि साहसिकतराः खं मुष्टिनापि जिगृक्षन्ति. So other than this Vijnanavadi, he also looks at the Shunyavadi. Vijnanavadi is actually not a Shunyavadi, no? So that is, at least they accept Shanika Vijnana. They are Shanika Vijnanavadis. Shunyavadins are the other kind of Buddhists. He says Shunyavadinaha Sarva Shunyatam Pashyantaha. Everything is Shunya. If everything is Shunya, then their darshana also is Shunya only, no? Whatever the philosophy which says everything is Shunya, that philosophy also is Shunya. Okay, that's the logic. So it's what Bhashikara says. येऽपि शून्यवादिनः पश्यन्तः एव सर्वशून्यतां स्वदर्शनस्यापि शून्यतां प्रति जानीते. Okay, ते ततोपि साहसिकतराः. At least Shanikya Vijnanins, he says, to some extent we can accept, but the Shunyavadis are even worse. Okay, they are like Kam Mushtinapi Jigrikshanti. They want to hold the space with hand by the fist. Okay, so using Shunya, they want to do a darshana. Okay, that is what it is. So therefore, they here, so like we said, this whole chapter, Alata Shanti, is primarily to address the Buddhists. The earlier chapters were mostly focused on Vaiseshika Naiyayikas. Here, Vaiseshika and even Sankhya, here he is looking at the Bauddhas. That's why their own terms are used. but to dismiss. And then people say that, Bhagavad Pada is a Buddha, all that. Okay, here he is literally like smashing them, saying that they are worse than even dualists. Okay, so that kind of Acharya, these people, they call them as him as Mayavad. I mean, I want to, I don't know if I told in this session or somewhere. See, people go to this Vidvat Sadas and all, even I have witnessed a few places. See, in the Vidvat Sadas, if Vedantins, then you have Vaiyakarana, then Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsavadi, if they are doing some Vakyartha and all that, then no problem. Suppose you have a Visishtadvaiti or if worst is this Madhvadvaitis come, they openly say Mayavadinaha Vakshyati. Okay, Vakshanti or whatever, right? That means who? They mean Advaitins. Okay, Vedantis as they call as Mayavadins. No, our people who talk in on the side of Advaita Sampradaya also, they just don't mind. They go ahead and answer. But my problem with that is who are they to label or brand us as Mayavadi when we haven't said we are Mayavadi? How can they take the liberty of naming us as Mayavadins? And why should we accept that? See, you say you call us Vedanti, that's how we want to be called as. If you think you are also a Vedanti, you want to differentiate, just call us as Advaita Vedanti, that's fine. Or Shankara Vedanti, whatever you want to do, qualify it properly. No? Just because you want to say I am a Mayavadi, you can't name me as Mayavadi and then address. And they liberally use that, right? You go to YouTube and look at, see, one is within their own Sadas Vakyartha, they may be using that itself, I would say, is wrong. But at least within them, if they want to brand us as Mayavadi and discuss, that is okay. But when you are coming to a common forum, and then Vedantins are sitting and participating in it, we should object. I don't think we should permit us to be called that way. So that is, I think, is not right. Anyway, so let's come to. So why I was saying that is, Acharya has very clearly spoken about Shunyavadi and Vijnanavadi. Not only here, there are many places, but here our Sampradaya is extremely clear. And there are, I was yesterday watching some video and on this Arya Samaji, somebody talking about Acharya. There also they just make allegations which are, he says Shankaracharya never recognized any of the Purvacharyas. I mean, what kind of statement is this? And then he goes with some kind of a logic and then says, Arya Samaj, Dayananda Saraswati rectified it and all that. I mean, it's not a factual position. No? How can somebody say that? Even here, in fact, at the end of Mandukya Karika, he has done prayer specifically on Acharyas and Paramacharyas and all that. Okay. And everywhere he has upheld the Sampradaya and the Gaudapada and other Acharyas, so many places he has quoted. And Vyasacharya also, with so much respect, Bhagavan Badarayanaha and all that. I don't know how these people make these kind of allegations, honestly. And one of the very famous Upanyasakas in Tamil Nadu also, once I heard him say that only after Ramanuja came, Advaitin started accepting Vyavaharika Satyam and all that. That's also not factual. I mean, Shastra says and Acharya also has many places without accepting Vyavaharika, where is the question of even Vedanta? I mean, these are fundamental. But still freely people spread misinformation and then they make some very, as though they are making very strong arguments. Right? The premise itself is wrong. And then they make very strong statements. Anyway, let's come to 29. Ajatam jayate yasmat ajatif prakristataha prakriteranyata bhavaha nakatanchit bhavishyati. So here I think it is repetition. Bhashyakara also again says, Ukter hetubihi ajamekam brahmeti siddham. Yet punaha adau pratignatam tatpala upasamhararthaha ayam slokaha. Okay. So he says it's a repetition. So repetition as in like upakrama upasamhara, right? You start with something, talk through it, and then conclude, right? That is the best way to present anything. Even in today's modern presentations, we say, right, make a simple statement of what you are going to talk, and then you cover all the detail, come back, wrap it up with whatever you started with. And that is what here Uktair Hetubihi, for all the reasoning that has been given. Ekam Brahmeti Siddham. So there is only Brahma alone. Yet Punaha Ado Pratignatam Tat Pala Upasamharartham. So in order to establish that, he is concluding whatever was originally spoken about. Ajatam yet chittam brahmaiva. That chittam is unborn. That is Brahma. So here chittam is actually Brahma only. Vrittitvam is mithya. The vritti is removed. What is only Brahma? Okay. And that vritti is what is this whole world. Therefore, that is also mithya. That Brahmaiva, that Brahma jayate iti vadibihi parikalpyate. That Brahma, which is ajatam Brahma, which is unborn, is perceived to be born. Like what we have just seen, Shanikavadi, Vijnanavadi, Dvaiti, everybody looks at it like that, right? Shanikya Vijnanavadi says everything is Chittam and that Chittam is born. The Bhakyarthavadi says everything is born, which includes the Chittam also is born. Okay. Ataha tat ajatam jayate yasmat ajatihi prakritihi tasya. So that Swarupa from which it is as though born, that itself, that Swarupa has a ajati as its prakriti. Being unborn is its nature. ततः तस्मात् अजातरूपायाः प्रकृतेः अन्यताभावः जन्म न कथञ्चित् भविष्यति. प्रकृतेः अन्यताभावः, nothing, no thing will give up its bhava, its swarupa. Okay, so any anyata bhava is not possible. Ajatam jayate yasmat ajatihi prakritihi tataha. Prakritehe anyata bhavaha na katanchit bhavishyati. Never, once nature is given up. The nature of Brahman is ajatihi. It was already covered. Okay, so it's a restatement of the same. He gives one more reasoning. Anader, anader, अनादेहे अंतवत्वं च संसारस्य न सेत्स्यति अनन्तता चादिमतो चादिमतः मोक्षस्य न भविष्यति. If something is anadi, it cannot have anta. Okay. And something has a adi, adiman, adimat, that cannot be ananta. Anything which is anadi has no end. If something starts in time, it cannot be ananta. Anything which starts in time only ends in time. Okay. If it does not start in time, it can't end. If it does, if it does start, then you cannot say it never ends, because they are rooted on the fact that anything which starts ends. Adimat is antavat always. Therefore, he used samsarasya. If you say samsara is anadi, then samsara cannot come to an end also. If anadi samsara, then it has to be a ananta samsara only. And if moksha starts in time, it cannot be ananta moksha, eternal heaven. This is why my Guruji, same logic he uses to dismiss the Abrahamic heaven, who call it as eternal heaven. If you say it is eternal, it cannot start in time, cannot begin in time. Eternal means it should always be there, it should have been there all the time. then only it is eternal. Otherwise, our heavens, there is no problem. It starts in time, ends in time, based on how much punya you have. Okay. So he uses. So what is the conclusion then? There is neither samsara nor moksha. Because only if there is samsara, there can be moksha. And you can't say samsara started in time, because before the samsara started, then what was there? You were already mukta. If you are already mukta, then how can samsara start? So you have to say samsara is anadi if it existed. Therefore, ayan chapara atmanaha samsara mokshayoho paramartha sadbhavavadinam doshaha uchyate aparaha doshaha. Another dosha is being spoken about in this karika. Samsara mokshayoho paramartha sadbhavavadinam. For people who say there is a paramartha samsara and paramartha moksha. For us, samsara is mithya, moksha is also mithya. See, this is what people don't understand. Most of the Dvaitins who are against Vedanta Shastra, they don't understand this. Samsara is mithya, moksha is also mithya. That's why they ask questions like, how can Brahman understand itself? If Brahman is what is all there, then why did it need Adi Shankara to come and teach so that it understands? All those kind of questions they ask. Okay, the misunderstanding of Satya Mithya and Moksha. They will ask all these kind of questions without trying to understand, but for their theory, they won't stand questions also. I mean, there's straightforward issues there, right? It's all faith based. So because it is a faith belief based system, you say anything, they'll say you will go to hell. If you don't follow me, you will go to hell. You will have this only if you follow. Even our own people, our own as in like our own Sanatana Dharma, there are different theologies there, right? They will say only whoever follows this sampradaya will goes to highest heaven. Then next level of heaven, some four heavens are put, four layers of heavens are spoken about, like within heaven itself. Just even if you are see this problem with these theologies and even our own faiths within our dharma or even Abrahamic faiths and all that, the biggest contradiction is suppose you are a big dharmishta, all your life you followed dharma. Okay, you didn't speak lie, you didn't steal, you were so generous, you did dana, you did upasana, you did everything. But suppose you didn't follow this particular god or this particular guru, then you won't get the highest heaven, right? Some people say you won't go to hell. So your dharma is irrelevant. But an adharmi, because that person follows, is in a different league. That this kind of a belief they have. Now, can you argue and then poke holes in this with them? No, they are totally like closed to listen. Okay. But then they come and freely, try to criticize without even understanding what we are saying. As though they asked a big question. Okay. How can Brahman understand itself? If Brahman is everything, then why does it need to be you have jnanam? Something they'll ask. Okay, that's fine. Anyway, but we can answer that, but they won't be willing to listen and understand. That is also a problem. And even if they temporarily are willing for a few hours to listen to us, it is too few hours are not enough to teach them what is Brahman, right? People who are with so much Shraddha and coming for so many sessions, for us also it takes like months and years before we gain real clarity with so much Shraddha. Somebody who comes for argument, how will that person gain jnanam and understand this? That's why I always say there is no point in going and arguing with them because it is of no use. It neither helps them nor us. Nobody is help. Only people it will help is if our own somebody has some doubt because they listen to these fellows. Then for them this can be useful so that you can be clear of what it is. That's all. So anyway, samsara mokshayoho paramartha sadbhavavadinam doshaha. What is the dosha? Anadehe atita koti rahisatasya samsarasya antavatvam samaptihi na setsyati yuktitaha siddhim na upayasyati. Logically, it is not establishable that samsara, which doesn't have a beginning, will end, because such a thing is not seen in the world. Nahi anadihi sanne antavan kaschit padartha drishtaha loke. Something which was there from beginning, but it has ended. There is nothing like that which is seen. Because in fact, even if something has been there for some 5 million years and then it died, we don't even know whether it was eternal or it was only 5 million years old, right? So it's all only, but within our domain of understanding, Anadihi Antavan is not seen. Okay. But then he gives one example. Bijankura Sambandha Nairantarya Vichedaha Drishtaha. No, no, no. There are some seeds and sprouts. Okay. Bijankura. Some seed was there. It became sprout. Then it became, again it gave some seed. Then that became sprout. Then it became, it went on from Srishti. Now that particular seed has become extinct. Like a bird became extinct, no, because people ate them up. There are some bird they talk about which became, there are many things which have become extinct. So like that you can say bijankura sambandha nairantarya vichedaha. So like that it is seen. He says na ekavastu abhavena apoditatvat. Hello, the seed and ankura sprout are not one entity. One seed became a ankura, and that ankura gave birth to another seed. You can call together them as one category, but it is not one. So that way nothing is anadi there also. Whichever seed was there that time, that came and died. Another seed came, that died. So it's also adimat antavat only. It is not, you cannot take this cycle together and then say it started, it is never started but ended. Okay. So he didn't accept that. So tata अनन्ततापि विज्ञानप्राप्तिकालप्रभवस्य मोक्षस्य आदिमतः न भविष्यति घटादिषु अदर्शनात्. Okay, there is something called anantam which doesn't have an end. So this moksha started in time. Vijnana praptikala prabhavaha mokshaha adimataha. It started in time, but it is ananta. Can you say that is not acceptable also? Because ghatadishu, any object you see, if it has started, will end. Okay, ghatadi vinasha. But then he says, you can look at ghatadi vinashavat avastutvad adoshaha. See, ghata was there. Ghata's destruction basically is pradhvamsa abhava. That is anantam, no? See, one Mr. K. Subramaniam was there. Okay, born sometime, he was a director. And he passed away in 50s, 60s, whenever. Now, that K. Subramaniam, who was there from late 1800s to mid 1900s, is gone. Right? There is a pradvamsa abhava. And that pradvamsa, absence of that particular K. Subramanian is ananta only. No? It doesn't, that absence of him is never going to go, because that particular K. Subramaniam is that K. Subramaniam. You can have another K. Subramaniam sometime, but that person is different. This 1800s K. Subramaniam is gone forever. And his absence is ananta. So you can say like that, Gatadi Vinashavat Avastutvad Adoshaha idije. Now, Tatacha Mokshasya Paramartha Sadbhava Pratignyana Hani. Pratignya Hani. No, your moksha, is it an abhava or sadbhava? It's a positive entity, no? Then only you are saying I am Mukta Purusha. Moksha has to be a positive thing that you are experiencing. Moksha is not abhava of something. Correct? It's a sadbhava, and that is your pratignya. You will gain moksha. We are not talking about death. Therefore, that pratigna also is gone. It will be gone if you accept this. Asattvadeva shashavishanasya adimatva abhavascha. Okay. If it is like a atyanta bhava, like sashavishana, then you can't say it as adimat. Okay. Because sashavishana is anadi. It was never there. So therefore, moksha or samsara both are not possible. Okay. Because moksha means it has to be always there. If it has to be always there, it should have been always there. So if you are bound, then no kind of moksha is possible. It's only some temporary relief, cold rain lee. That's all. Till the next time, you can have the cold rain effect. Otherwise, this moksha, only moksha that is possible is nitya mukti. That is the idea. Adavante cha yannasti vartamane pitattatha वितथैः सदृशाः सन्तः अवितथा इव लक्षिताः सप्रयोजनता तेषां स्वप्ने विप्रतिपद्यते तस्मात् आद्यन्तवत्वेन मिथ्यैव खलु ते स्मृताः. These verses have already been seen in the earlier chapter. Okay, in I think Vaitatya Prakarana or something, that's what Bhashikara says. आदावन्ते च यन्नास्ति वर्तमानेऽपि तत्तथा. वैदत्यम 6 and 7 second prakarana. That which is not there in the beginning and end, it can be deemed to not exist in the middle also. Okay. Means there is, it's, see, everything is only a modification. That's the idea. Cloth was not there before, but it was there in the form of cotton. Cloth is not there later. It is in the form of something else. So it's only a modification. So there is no such thing as cloth. If it is there in the beginning and at the end, it is there as whatever is the beginning and end. That's all. Vitadai sadrishaha santaha avitata iva lakshitaha. Okay. So it is vitata only. It is mithya. It appears as something else. Okay. But it appears as though it is fixed. Avidada iva. It's satyam. Saprayojanata tesham swapne vipratipadyate. Tasmad adyantavatvena mithyaiva kalu. Even though there seems to be some benefit, purpose. But you see in the dream, within the dream, something appears as with purpose. But then when you wake up, it is gone. Therefore, here also, saprayojanatvam is not, doesn't establish reality. वैदत्ये कृतवाक्यानौ श्लोकौ इह संसारमोक्ष अभावप्रसंगेन पठितौ. Same way, Adavante, samsara is not there. Even if it is not there in one state, either Adav or Ante, it is not there. That's all. Sarve dharma mrisha swapne kayasyantar nidarshanat samvridesmin pradeshe vai bhutanam darshanam kutaha. So he uses the same swapna Vishaya. Actually, Bhashyakara says Nimitasya Animittatvam Ishyate Bhuta Darshanat iti ayam artaha prapanchate yate shlokehi. Bhuta Darshanat is, if you actually, what was said there in Bhuta Darshanat? If you look at Pata, it is actually only Tantu. And if you look at Tantu, it is something else, fibers. And if you look at that, it resolves itself into some other thing, but you may not know the name of it. So everything keeps reducing to something until you get into a state where you don't have a name for what is further broken up. Okay, that was the idea in Bhuta Darshanat. It's the same thing here. Sarve dharmaha Vrisha. It is mithya only, right? Okay. Yes, where in swapne. Okay, so all objects which are cognized in dream are unreal. Why? Kayasya anta kayasya anta nidarshanat. Because they are seen within the body. There is no corresponding objects outside. Okay. So samvrite asmin pradeshe vai bhutanam darshanam kutah. So in the case of Brahman also, okay, which is actually only Sat Swarupa, how can all these bhutas which are supposed to be seen exist in Niravayava Nirakara? So therefore, this is all same as Bhuta Darshanat. That verse is what Vashikara says. Nayuktam darshanam gatva kalasya aniyamat ghatau pratibuddhasya vai sarvaha tasmin deshena vidyate. He talks about how the Swapna Darshanam is Mithya. Okay, it's fairly straightforward. Because the Kala Aniyama Niyamat, Kala Aniyamat. So when somebody is going Gati Agamana Kalau, Vashikara, Jagarite Gati Agamana Kalau Niyatau, Desha Pramana Taha Yaha, Tasya Aniyamat, Niyamasya Bhavat Swapnena Deshandara Gamanam. So in the Vacan, you can see that you need a certain time to go from one place to the other. Okay, and a certain distance is there. But in dream, all that is not. Basically, dream is just set of thoughts, right? So therefore, it's only happening within the body. You are not actually going somewhere else. The same logic. Therefore, drishyatvat hetu was used. Okay, because even though it is seen, it seems real. Just because it is seen doesn't mean it has a reality. In fact, for the reason it is seen, there is no reality to it. That is how it is taken as a hetu. Drishyatvat na satyam. Because it is dependent on the drashta's surupa. Otherwise, it cannot, there is no drishya. So therefore, it's a paratantram. Like Maya, Mithya, everything is paratantra. No? So whatever is drishyam also is paratantra. Only Atma Vastu is swatantra. Therefore, they are, a paratantra is Mithya only. So he is establishing through Swapna and Jagrat again. Okay, so we'll see. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om.
धन्यवाद.
धन्यवाद.